Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning. We are going to be kicking off our webinar this morning, which is the webinar for Sage Intacct, with specific emphasis on how Sage Intacct can be used in not-for-profit organizations. So by way of introduction, just to go through the speakers this morning, my name is Ivan Darmody. I am the New Business Development Manager here in Visage. I'm going to be joined by my colleague Kyle Moore, who is our product specialist, specializing in Sage Intacct. And we also have a special guest speaker this morning, Grant Givers from Sage. And Grant is also the NFP specialist in Sage. So looking forward to hear some insights from him and I suppose really how Sage is focusing in on the not-for-profit sector and how their software can benefit organizations like yourselves. So just a little bit of housekeeping. As normal, if you've been on our webinars before, you'll know, so this will be recorded. By default, we do have both microphones and cameras turned off. If you do have any issues, you can raise your hand in the chat. We'll be able to pick that up and give assistance. And if you have any questions as well, there will be a Q&A panel there that you can drop your questions into. We do have a section at the end of the webinar. So any questions that are raised that we don't get to cover during the actual demonstration of the product itself, we'll be able to address them as we get towards the end of the session. So just a little bit about ourselves, if you're not familiar. Here in Envisage, we are actually part of the wider Knowledge Group. Ultimately, we are Sage business partner. We're the largest Sage partner in Ireland. And all we do basically is we specialize in Sage ERP software. We don't actually do anything else. We don't specialize in any other software, any other platforms in Sage ERP. And we have offices here in Dublin. We have also offices in Belfast and in Newcastle in England as well. So we have good coverage no matter where you're based yourselves. What we do really is we partner with organizations like yourselves from start to finish. So from the initial discussions and the initial planning stages of deciding what kind of a platform would be right for you. We can help with that and advise given our knowledge and our portfolio of products. But as well as that, then we work through the whole implementation of the product. And once it's actually up and running, that's where the actual partnership starts. So it's not a case of we just put the software in and walk away. It's once you're up and running, it's where it actually begins. And to be fair, we have customers with us now, probably over 20 years. So we provide all of the software, we provide all of the support, and the support is delivered by our own support team here on the island of Ireland as well. So just a little bit around Intacct, again, if you're not familiar with the product itself. So Sage Intacct is one of the latest additions to Sage's portfolio. It was an acquisition made by Sage back in 2017. And the real idea behind it was to fill a little bit of a gap in Sage's portfolio for a completely cloud-native ERP solution. I think Sage wanted to really give customers the ability to use software to its fullest ability and really leverage the current technology that's available today. So Intacct, even though it was developed back since 1999, it's relatively new to both the UK and Irish markets. What's unique, I think, about Intacct is the fact that using its modular approach, you can build a software specific to your own requirements. And I think we'll see this as we go through the demonstration in a minute. But it really benefits organizations like yourselves because it's not a case of using an ERP platform or taking a financial platform and trying to make it work for you. What Sage has done is they've taken a financial platform and made it work for you by developing modules specific to your own requirements. So again, as we go through this, we'll be able to give examples of this and also get some insights from the likes of Grant. And on that note, I think it's a perfect timing to hand over to Grant and he can take us through.
Great, thank you very much, Ivan, and it's good to be with you this morning. So where I'd like to start is just talk a little bit about the overview of the sector here at Sage. So over 40% of our customer base is actually made up of non-profit organizations. And while we appreciate that a lot of non-profits do share some common threads, we like to take more of a detailed approach rather than trying to fit all non-profits into the same mold. So we have a lot of pre-configured reports and dashboards across various subsectors for non-profits or within the non-profit sector. Then just thinking about some of those common challenges for the wider sector, in my experience, probably reporting is the biggest area of focus. So there's a big push and a big need to move away from some of those Excel spreadsheets that are manually updated by various persons in the teams. But as you can see here on the screen, if we have a look at the overall challenges, all of this kind of centers around data. So, whether that be including data from other financial systems, so if you've got like a fundraising CRM system or potentially an EPOS system, if you've got shops, and there's the need to include that in your financial reporting. Also, being able to capture non-financial data that's key to your mission. So, for example, number of meals served or number of volunteer hours, and then building that data into your financial reports. So it's paramount for any nonprofit to be able to make the best use of all of their data. And other areas you can see, whether it be maybe capturing the data from all the grants received, so that's tracking of restricted, unrestricted, designated funds, or perhaps looking at those donations coming in from fundraising CRM system, and then looking at the live statement information coming through from the bank, and automatically matching that. These are some of the key challenges that we see across a lot of nonprofits. So we'll be bringing some of these areas to life for you in the demo a little later on. Now, what I want to focus on next is 4 key areas of benefit. But firstly, trust is one of our key values at Sage. So we are the trusted partner of choice for thousands of customers in the UK. But you don't need to take my word for it, because on the right-hand side here, we have some of the recent accolades that we've received from G2. Now, if you're not familiar with G2, their reviews are all based on end users' feedback. And as you can see, we won leader, best relationship, best usability, which I think speaks volumes. Now, I'd say a big reason for that is our simple approach to finance. So, we're looking to simplify reporting, simplify the user experience, making screens and functions intuitive for end users to make use of. So we're obviously doing something right if we've won best usability this year. But we're also looking to introduce automation across a range of different financial processes, like, for example, the automating of approvals, automating of reports through schedules, or pulling that live statement information through and automating the matching. But a big feature within automation is also AI, and we're looking to use AI to drive some of the automation. So here, as you can see, one of those examples is our AP automation. Now, this tool that's used by a lot of our customers already is saving customers up to 50% of the time that it was taken, or they took previously, to manually key in invoices. And this is such an important area for any nonprofit, being able to track all of their costs against budgets, be able to provide visibility into all of the supporting documents, but also, the audit history, the approval history, maybe capturing communications, and all of that can be accessed through the drill down from dashboards and reports. But here, with the machine learning, the AI can quickly learn how you key transactions in and do that heavy lifting for you, and somebody just needs to review this information. Now, coming back to my other slide. So the next point is grow. Now, the Sage Intacct platform will help you grow as an organization. So you will receive a single Intacct environment to hold all of your companies. So if you have multiple companies, and we do see a lot of nonprofits who have a commercial arm which is funding the charity. But as you grow, Sage's multidimensional ledger will allow you to still report on or provide all the insights into your data. So as you can see on the screen here, with any GL account, you can record multiple dimensions. You know, it's a little bit like hashtags used in social media. So I don't know if you can put multiple hashtags against a transaction and then start to report by hashtag. It's just a simplistic kind of explanation for that. And I know Carl's going to build on this example a little later on in the demo. But you can use any combination of dimension. This is not an exhaustive list here as well. You know, you can still grow your list of dimensions and also build hierarchies within dimensions. So you've got all of the ability to report or satisfy the reporting needs for any nonprofit. So our final point is elevate. So, you know, we're looking to elevate the role of the finance leader, but not just the finance leader, but all roles within finance through AI. So this is done in numerous ways, one of which is through our Sage Copilot. This is our finance assistant that will help. It's a tool that will help any person who's involved in finance. So take, for example, the budget holder. And a Sage Copilot can automatically notify you if you've gone over budget, and also provide all of the insights, you know, to be able to quickly address that budget overage. So just before I pass you over, I'm just going to show you a little example of that. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got a little example where I've received a notification here from Sage Copilot, and it's telling me that I've gone over budget for a specific department. So I can click from that notification email. It will launch me into the system where I can see my little Copilot notifications area. I can see I've got an insight that's been automatically created by Sage Copilot. And it's telling me that there's some departments that have exceeded the financial year-to-date budget. So if I want to go and view the details, I can just click on that. I can then see the 2 departments that have gone over. It's describing or just showing me the variance here. So I can see how much I've gone over by. But if I wanted to understand why there is that variance, I can then click on describe the variance. And you'll see that it gives you a nice detailed description of that variance. So here it's saying salaries and wages were slightly under budget, but there was notable overspending in employee benefits and commissions that wasn't originally budgeted for. So it's giving you a nice detailed description that you can quickly give an answer to why there is that variance. But if you wanted to analyze that in a little bit more detail, you can maybe click on show me prior year, and then it's going to give you your prior year actuals to analyze that compared to last year. And if you wanted to really drill down into the detail, you can view the full financial report across both of these departments. And this will then allow you to drill down into all of those source transactions to really, you know, pinpoint where you've gone over. So that's just a little example of how we're using AI to help elevate the role of finance, well, different finance persons across the finance function. So one final point before I pass you over for the demo. You know, Sage sees itself as not just a technology company, but also a service-based organization. And for me, the standout award on the right is Best Relationship. You know, providing great service and also great user experience is to our customers is a primary focus. And you can expect to see, you know, the same levels of engagement that warrants, you know, best relationship from not just Sage, but from our partner Envisage. Here is also one of our leading partners in Ireland. All right, thank you very much. And I'll pass over to you, Kyle.
Thank you very much, Grant. I appreciate that. I'm going to take you through now some of the practical aspects and showing you the demonstration of the Sage Intacct on the system there. So hopefully you should be able to see my screen. And we are logged in at the Intacct screen here at the moment. So I'm just going to share that now. Okay. Well, again, my name's Kyle. As been explained, I've been working with the Sage products for over the past 25 years. I've worked with different types of organizations, local and national charities, and many other service product-based companies, project-driven companies as well. So today I'm going to be trying to show you just a wee bit of the practicalities of what's already been discussed, the many benefits your company can have by implementing Sage Intacct for your non-for-profit. I'm going to be focusing on a few things. Multi-entity management and dimensions, as we've heard explained there. So sharing records and rolling up information, consolidation across the company entities. Looking at our grant and donation tracking, the ability to track financial information, resources, grants, donations, etc. Looking a wee bit at fund accounting, so restricted, unrestricted, sort of tying up to our donor requirements there, compliance and tracking, reporting, adherence to the restrictions that we have, and of course, Grant's already said about the importance of getting that information out, to looking at the reports to get up-to-date, accurate information, key insights into your data, whether it's company, user, or task specific. And a lot of that's done through this thing called the dashboard, which you're seeing on screen at the moment. We'll look a wee bit at the authorization of workflows, allocation, spend management, and a few other real additional features of the Sage Intacct. But one of the first signs that you're outgrowing your current system for your non-for-profit organization is inadequate visibility of your data to make quick decisions based on data-driven information. And one of the ways Sage Intacct addresses this is with standard and customizable dashboard. So as I said, I'm on a dashboard here. It is web-based, so we're in a browser. I'm looking at what's called a financial controller dashboard. So if I click on the financial controller dashboard, I have this presented to me. Now, whether you are financial controller, whether you're looking at grants, a grant manager, whether you're a fundraiser or a department head, there are dashboards that we can set up, and there are ones that come as standard within the system, within what's called a quick setup routine of Sage Intacct. To explain a wee bit about what we have here. At the top, we have what's called a performance cards. So we're looking at the expenses, the total revenue, the customers, the cash on hand, and we're seeing that this is compared to your budget. So we're down on budget for their expenses. We're plus on revenue, which is good from the prior month, etc. So these performance cards are drawing information from all different parts of Sage Intacct and sharing them as the buzzword was KPI, or sharing them as indicators from how your company is doing at a high level. Okay, so we're seeing that all in the system. Unlike other systems, we're not running some sort of query overnight or managing some sort of update. It's happening as the information is being entered into the system as we're looking at that. But also within our particular dashboards, we have the ability not just to look at it at a high level, but also click into the options here and drill down into the details and right down into the transactions on the GL, and we can see that we have our debit and credit here. You'll also notice that we have these dimensions, which Grant talked about, our locations, our employees, departments, etc., none of which are just used on that particular transaction. So we have the ability to see a quick glance, and we have the ability to drill into the details for those. We also have a thing called statistical journals. And a statistical journal allows us to put things in like, meals served, beds given, in this case, hours billed, and we have all of that in the system as well. In the non-for-profit side of things, we can look at dashboards then that continue on with our non-for-profit, looking at expenses by categories. So in this one, we've got a counsellor service, youth centre, outreach. When we look at our revenues, how do we get our money in? Well, then there's some sales from some shops, there's contributions, there's investments, there's grant revenue, another revenue in here. And it's actually quite easy to click into that and jump down into the transactions. And again, drill into the detail of that. So dashboards contain different basically widgets on the system. So we've got our performance cards, we've got reports, we've got graphs that we can drill into, cash balances that we can drill into as well. And we have got things like, you know, checklists for month end, who's closing the month end, has it been done, can I tick it off? All of this is compiled into one central location on the dashboard, helping you do your job and seeing what you need to do. Now, we talked about the ability to report on your information. So we take this profit and loss, for instance, and if I have the authorization to do so, I can click on the edit button and very, very simply just go into my columns and go into my actual figure and say, I want to expand that by the departments within the organization. So this department is a dimension that we saw on the circle before. So if I save and done, and then just refresh my report here, we now have our profit and loss broken up into our different departments within the organization. Now, if you take that and explode it out for any dimension that we have, we can do that for restricted funds, we can do that for projects, for locations, for companies and entities, and it was as easy as that to actually get the data on the screen for me in there. Now, continuing on with dashboards, whenever we look at dashboards, we can set up dashboards for other particular roles within the system. So we have, for instance, a grant manager here. So all of the grants coming into the system, we can see things like how much have we received. We can look at the actual grants being brought in, how much is awarded, revenue booked, expenditure taken, even down to having my own P&L just for that one particular grant, because that's the main one that I'm working for. Just to give you a wee bit of an idea then about other things, we have fundraising efficiency dashboard. So this is starting to show more of the performance cards and using things like the statistical journals. So how do we know what the average giving amount is? Well, we have recorded the amount of people that gave, we've recorded the value, and we can work out the calculations behind that. And therefore, we've got average donor giving, fundraising costs, what the average donation cost per donation, etc., all the way down. And there's our giving by restriction. So I wanted to show you this. Obviously, that's an important part of the non-for-profit. What has been restricted, what's been unrestricted funds, and again, that can be drilled into to see where that information is coming from. So we have lots of different ways of looking at the data on the system, and we have lots of ways of putting that front and center and drilling down into the system. Whenever we're talking about multiple companies, how does Sage Intacct work with multiple companies across the system? Well, if I just look at my organizational view within this company, you can see that we have a software company in this case, and we have lots of different entities or companies below that. Each of those could have the same or different exchange, currencies, legislations, things like that, and they're all linking together. In fact, we can have actually multiple locations there below our entities or our companies. So we can take all this information and we can use that through our consolidation, bringing all this information together into one source, because it's on the web, that can be processed from anywhere in the world using a browser. And that all gets put straight into the system, and then we can consolidate, we can run reports, we can view. Now, One of the great things about having Intacct all in the one place and all your entities in one place, as was said by Grant, is we can do what's called multi-entity sharing. So for our chart of accounts, we have one chart of accounts which can be shared throughout all of the companies. But not only your chart of accounts, we can share our customers, our suppliers, our inventory, our projects, all done in a central location. Now, where is that central location? Well, you can notice at the top here, I have got what's called the top level. That top level is where I can set up my chart of accounts, and it will trickle down into all of my entities. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a supplier that only is dealing with one particular entities. There are options to be able to restrict to certain entities for certain dimensions and for certain suppliers, items, etc. That's all done top level. It's very easy to jump into the companies. We can just go to our location one and a new tab opens. And we're now in location one. If I was to go back and look at my dashboard again, so there's my role-based dashboard, and you can see there that I'm in the top level, looking at all the information. And if I go to company one, it replicates that tab, but I now have a different value in my location one company. You can see the values have changed automatically, just depending on the company that I'm in. So we've got all of that information, and we're taking all of this different strands from the different entities, and we're bringing them all together. Now, I'm sure you have quite a few spreadsheets and things like that you have to bring data from different sources. Hopefully, we are going to be able to get rid of a lot of those because they go straight into Sage Intacct. So we're looking to assist in the accuracy of that month-end and reporting. Now, talking of reporting, we can go in, there is a reporting module within the system. So again, I'll just go to the top level here, and then you can see we've got reports. So there's a full report center. Each of the modules that you can see listed below are going to allow you to do that. We also have our main financial reports that we can see in here. There is things like quick start libraries. So again, quick start libraries allow us to see reports that are already designed for us to get us going. But if I just run, for instance, a profit and loss details, you can see there that we've got different report types and audiences that we can use. And if I just do this to HTML, which is to the screen, and run that profit and loss detailed report, you can see there that we have profit and loss. We can drill into the information, and we can drill down into the transactions as well. It's worthwhile showing you just while we're drilling into the transactions in here, that here we can see the locations, department, classes, customers, items, all of that. Also, a nice feature that can be enabled within the Sage Intacct is this collaboration feature. So a lot of it's about audit trail. A lot of your NFPs is about if the auditors come in, how do I know what's the notes against transactions and things like that. And what we can do is we can actually put a note for the auditor. Okay, put that in there. We can also, by using the @ symbol, ask one of our colleagues to join the conversation and share that out through the system. That note will stick with this particular transaction that was done, but also if I go back to my system again here, it will also be part of my collaboration center in the system. Okay, we've got our reports, we've got our financial reports, profit and loss, top 10 customers, a lot of things like that. And then we can go into things like the interactive custom reports, which allow you to pivot and do spreadsheet type reports where you can click on months and years and expand them out in the system. The other thing we have is a interactive visual explorer for getting reports out where the standard level report just isn't enough. So I've just loaded one for project here, or projects and grants, as we can look at. And you can see along the top, we have our criteria. And then down the bottom, we have what's called our storyboard. So if, for instance, I wanted to see a particular project, I can do that. If I wanted to see a particular location, as I'm choosing the locations, you can see all of the information is going to be, sorry about this, it's going to be refreshed. I'll just deselect those locations again, sorry, my mistake. And you can see that we've got information that we can fill into graphs, charts, detailed analysis on the system. And we can see all of that through the system here. So let me just go back and we will deselect all, select all projects. Sorry about this. Deselect all, location, deselect all, there we go. That's your Visual Explorer. I think I've left that tab open too long. Okay, so go back to our software and we can see reports. We've got different ways of running reports through the system. Now, one of the things we talked about was our grants and projects. So let's take a wee quick look at that. Again, just going into our dashboard, you can see we have our projects and grants from the situation. So if I click on projects and grants, we can look at our list of projects here. So what I'm trying to show you here is that, for instance, this one, the Health Initiative Grant 1, there we can see that we can group it by particular types, whether it's a grant, whether it's an event, whether it's an endowment and a real estate project, whatever that might be. And we can also have sub-projects underneath the main one, or grants underneath the main one. So we've got one here, and then we've got a year 1, year 2, year 3 grant in the system. If we view the information on the grants, we can see that we can set up the grant name. We can also set up different dimensions that relate to that grant whenever we're putting out transactions in. We've got additional information on that. Is it restricted? What is that for? What progress percentage, etc., that we can have in here? We can set resources for that. And we can look at the financial summary here on how much is brought in expenditure. And you can see this grant is actually overrunning at the moment. We've spent more than we brought in the revenue. We can see Gantt charts as well in the system, just to give us an idea of where we're wanting to be. Okay, so that's great. Now, how does the information get into those particular grants or whatever? Well, very quickly, we can just go and look at things like our donations. So we can add in a donation into the system where we've got the payer, transfer, and again, down here, we've got the account. We can look into the nominal account. We've got the fund, the restriction, the department, and we were looking at 400 there, which was the initiative, health initiative. So it's easy to really get information in quickly and to the right place. All of these dimensions can be then obviously reported on if we need to see them. Okay, looking at then the monetary aspect of the business, when you're thinking about NFB companies, there is a lot of money coming in to the system from many different revenue streams, from grants, donations, from events, and more. So as a company, I'm sure you spend a lot of time looking at bank reconciliations and making sure the correct transactions are reconciled off in the system. So if we look at our cash management, our bank information, and if I just jump down to my cash management here, and we look at our reconciliations, just to give you an example of this, use my bank account. I can attach any statements or documents to it, as we can with lots of transactions. And if I just look at the applied rules, then we have, when we're looking at reconciling our information, there is a few rules that we can do. So how are we reconciling this? Well, you can see that we have a thing called bank feeds connected to this. And what bank feeds do is bank feeds take your information and transactions from your bank, download them into Sage Intacct so that you can compare them with the Intacct transactions that are being keyed, being imported, have been from another system, being brought in from another system. Okay, so if we go into our applied rule set here, then what we're saying is if we get a transaction from our bank, how do we match it? Well, we're going to match it by the amount, by the document number, and by the date. But going beyond that, Sage Intacct allows us to do many-to-one and one-to-many matching as well. So where we have lots of Intacct payments against a lump sum in the bank, or the other way around, lump sum in the bank and many Intacct payments. The other thing we can do here is we can also have transactions that we have never seen before, such as bank fees and interests that we only see when we're looking at the bank reconciliation. And when we see this, we can get Sage Intacct to create a rule. And we can say in that rule that when we have a bank fee in the description of the transaction, then we've got a template set up here that we can automatically post that and reconcile that into your system. So a lot of the work is done by the reconciliation part of the bank feeds in the system. And what you're left with then, if we continued on with that, is you're left with the transactions that are unmatched within your Intacct and the transactions that are unmatched within your bank transaction. And then you're down to your reconciliation. That can save a lot of time and accuracy on the system when we're talking about our cash management in there. Okay, so we've got that on our bank reconciliation. The other thing that we have is we've got our authorizations within the company. So if I look at my authorizations, I have authorizations at a number of levels within the system. We have them in purchase ordering. So we can go into purchase ordering, we can have our quotes and requisitions, we've got our orders and our shippings and our invoices, etc. But what we want to do is we want to keep a tight audit trail of who's putting the information on, who is authorizing the information for us. And that is not only for our reconciliations purposes, but it's also for things like invoices, cash payments out. So we can set what's called approval routes up at different stages within the system, within purchasing, within our AP invoices, within our nominal ledger journals, and within our purchase ledger payments routines. All of those can be set up to have approval routes on the system. So if I just quickly look at an approval route, an approval on the Rex, here's an approve purchase order transaction. So the purchase order transaction went on, purchase order, and because of the approval route, it has came to me for approval. So I can view the order. I can look at the history of the order to see if anyone else has approved it previously to me. So again, there's my audit trail. And I can either approve, decline, or go back to that limit. So I can approve it. I can even leave another comment as well here if I wanted to. So if I just approve that transaction, it asks me for a comment. All okay. Approve. So that transaction will now go through the system as being approved. Again, we can do this on a number of different options. We can do that through our purchase orders, as we've seen. We can also do it through our nominal ledger journals on the system. And again, same principle, approve, decline, or view the journal system. Okay, so that's one way of keeping accountable all of the transactions that are coming through the system. Another way of working with the system is with the budgeting information. It's very important to be able to budget against your general ledger accounts, but it's also available. What do we also have available within Sage Intacct is the fact that we can budget against not only our GL codes, but we can budget against our dimensions as well. So if I looked at my budgets within the system, I have got a budget repository, and I can set up multiple budgets first of all. So some systems will only let you set up one budget against your GL codes. Sage Intacct will let us set up multiple budgets against that. So we could have the main budget, the master budget on the system, but we could also have forecast budgets. We could have budgets against projects. We could have budgets with grants coming in, etc. on the system. And when we go into our budgets, what we can also do is, within the budget details, we can budget against not only the GL code, but against any of our dimensions that we have on the system. Again, getting budgets in and out of the system is easy. We can export them, we can import them back in again from the system there. Okay, so that is our budget. So we can set those up. Now, one of the things that we can do as well as having budgets is we can see those budgets proactively as we're doing transactions. This is a thing called spend management. And spend management allows us to look at the budgets as we're doing transactions, because sometimes it's too late if somebody runs a budget report at the end of the month. We want to see this information as we are processing transactions. So if I just was to look at a transaction within the system, I have a spend management example for a purchase order. So we're trying to put a purchase order in to the system. Here's what we want to buy. Looking at professional services, it's going to cost us £10,000 or euro. We have got that information on the system. Now you can see there's a show spend insight button. And if I click on the show spend insight, what it does is it goes away, looks at the budget that we have set up for the spend insight, looks at the, in this case, department, location, and GL account, brings back the budget, looks at the actual against that budget, what our committed expenses is going to be, and then will give us our available funds. Now, that is a great tool for when you're trying to keep things under budget, when you're trying to process things, to be able to see this as and when you're doing it. The other thing about the budgets and the spend management is that if we do go over budget, that we can get automated emails coming from the system to let us know that we're over budget as well. And that can be done against purchase orders, but it also can be done against our nominal ledger. So in my example here, I'm doing a spend management, the general ledger there. I'm looking to put in a spot bonus, okay? And if I show my spend insight for that, well, unfortunately, we are under budget, or we're over budget, so we don't have the funds available to be able to do that. Okay, that is your spend management in operation with nominal and also purchase orders on the system. Go back on something we talked about previously, and that is your entity management. One of the other big drawbacks with certain systems is if I was wanting to do any sort of transactions between entities. So if an invoice came in for company one and I paid it from company two, if we wanted to move money from one company to another, well, a lot of this will incur intercompany transactions, or what Sage Intacct term is inter-entity mapping and transactions on the system. So what we can do is we can eliminate this by setting up what's called inter-account mapping. And then what happens is when we do a journal, so it's an example of a journal. So I've received in the 3,000 here, which I have split up over the different entities or companies. And because I have done that, I need to then create a ripple effect in my GL code to eliminate these in my intercompany transactions. But because I have already set up the relationships between this, well, what happens is Sage Intacct automatically does the inter-entity transactions for me, setting them up against each of the accounts to the correct nominal codes as well. So again, that's one less thing you need to worry about if it's set up and it's done through the system. Okay, so that's great. Looking at a couple of wee things before we stop and take some questions. Some of the other things that we have in the Sage Intacct that really help us is the like of the machine learning within the system. So Sage Intacct has a thing called GL outlier. So if I just look at the GL outlier, and we can go to our example of our GL outlier. And what GL outlier does is GL outlier looks at machine learning, and it looks at your historical transactions and the patterns from those transactions. And it evaluates your current transactions that you're processing through what's called an approval cycle. So I put a transaction in, it sees, well, is that normally what we do within our company? And if it doesn't think it's normal, then it will highlight that to us. So for instance, these declined transactions that we have in here, they are journals that have not been declined by a user, but they have been declined by the GL outlier itself. So you can see down here, it's telling us that there is a coding issue. And it says this department, account, and location combination is unusual. We haven't used this before. Therefore, do we really want to use this now? Or what do we want to do with the system? Okay, so that's your GL outlier on the system, and it's working. If we wanted, we can just submit it. We accept that that's right, or we can edit the transaction and change it. But it means obviously that you're keeping the automation of the errors, you're improving your control, and you're improving your accuracy of your journals, less corrections, etc., because of the way the system is working. Okay, so that's your GL outlier on the system as well. Again, we have some other added advantages within the system, and where we can look at things like smart rules and smart events. So where we want to have the system set up, we can set up smart rules. So I have a rule set up here for location 300. If someone tries to go into location 300 and post, it will tell them they're not allowed to do so. So we can set up these things. We can customize the Intacct system. We can bring it and use it as you would like to on your particular company. Now, let's just go back to our dashboards. Just giving you a quick example of within the fundraising efficiency. There, we've also different dashboards set up for different types of, so there's the schools metrics, the foundation metrics as well. Go back to the dashboards themselves. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a nice overview of the non-for-profit with Sage Intacct, showing you a few of the screens, looking at our multi-entities, looking at our grants and fund management, looking at our reporting and our invoices and cash, and our spend management, and some of the additional features within the system. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to me. I think we have a few questions in, do we, Ivan?
We do, yeah. No, and first and foremost, thank you, Kyle, for that. That was very, very insightful. Before we do, just I suppose to sum up and to go back over what we covered there. Really about Intacct, what is it designed for? Who is it designed for? If you are looking to, I suppose, automate a lot of your processes, if you're looking to gain more real-time insight into your data, just so to, I suppose, to give you that ability to make informed, actionable decisions based on real-time analytics. That's what Intacct is designed to do. It also, I think, some of the areas that we didn't possibly touch on in huge detail, the benefits of it being in the cloud is that you don't have to worry about the whole security of your data, managing backups, putting in servers, etc. And it takes that whole kind of pressure away from you as well. But as well as that, I think overarching is it gives you that peace of mind because it manages the whole levels of complexity around your compliance and governance when it comes to audits. You have all that information there, and basically the software manages that whole piece for you. So it gives you that peace of mind so you can focus on actually growing the organization and generating additional revenues for the organization itself. But yeah, no, Kyle, thanks for that. That was really informative, and hopefully everybody found that to be beneficial. So on that point, and as to Kyle's point, we do have a couple of questions, but before we get into that, just to give you an idea off the back of this, now that we've finished the product presentation piece, Off the back of this, you will actually receive a recording of this. So again, you can rewatch it or share it with any of your colleagues who weren't able to attend it. And we do also have an offer for a review call where we can basically, depending on your requirements, we can sit down with you and go through your current situation, your current requirements, and future requirements as well, and basically give you some guidance as to how we might be able to help with that. So we'll be sending on details of that off the back of this session as well. But yeah, no, as Kyle has said, we do have a couple of questions. So first and foremost, one area that did come up was, and this might be beneficial for yourself, Kyle, is just around the areas of integration. So if customers have other systems in place as it is that they don't want to move away from, is Intacct capable, or is it open to having other systems talk to it?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a number of ways that things can integrate within the Sage Intacct system. There is the very basic but powerful import transactions into the system. So if you have an external payroll and they export transactions out, a journal can be imported into the system. But more automatic than that, we have an API that is available for connection to external systems. Sage Intacct itself has a marketplace where you can do things like CRM and integrations with them. They're already written to integrate seamlessly into the Sage Intacct system. So there are many different ways of doing that. It's about finding the right one for you with the right package and the right path to that. So there are different things you can do.
Excellent. Okay. One of the questions come in, and this might be more relevant to yourself, Grant, is, and this actually does come up quite a bit when we're talking with customers and trying to find the best solution for them. When it comes to the different types of people accessing the software, are there different levels of access, or does everybody have basically the same level of access to the system, or how does that work in terms of levels of purchasing different types of users, if that's an option?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are different types of users. Obviously, we've got what's called a business user, which is just a full finance user. So that would be just your normal finance person accessing the system. We also have what are called employee users. So employee users will have view access to the entire system, and also can create purchase requisitions, purchase orders. They can do approvals, etc. So those tend to come in bundles as well, because that you can capture all of your budget holders, and that would be one of those types of users. And anyone else within those departments can form one of those types of users. And then if we've got something unique, we can also create, in certain instances, we've got customers who've got a person who's kind of a hybrid role, where they're a little bit of they don't need to be a full user, but they need access to slightly more than just an employee user. So we can create a limited user as well and give them certain access to other parts of the system as they need.
Excellent. Okay, so it sounds like there's something there for everybody. Okay, well, excellent, guys. I think that's pretty much it. We have some other more technical questions we can actually get back to people individually on. But on that note, it's just left for me to say thank you very much for taking the time to join us this morning. If you do have any questions, you can obviously contact us by the details there on screen. Again, we will be circulating this deck around as well, so you'll have all this information to hand. But on that note, it only leaves me to thank both Kyle and Grant for joining us this morning, and to you for taking your time out as well. So thank you very much, and hope we will see you again. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.